Good morning, boys and girls, and welcome to another Hotspur live stream here on Stateside Footy. I am your host, Steve Silver. Before we get into it, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons and also hit the notification bell. And for those that are tuning in on TikTok Live, the link is in the description. If you want to head over to YouTube, you're more than willing to go ahead and hook a boy up with a sub, or you can just hit the profile and hit the follow as well too. So multitude of ways where you guys can get involved today in today's live stream. Yeah, man, it's going to be fun. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it because we are 10 minutes away from kickoff as Spurs will travel to Turf Moor to take on relegation fodder Burnley. And of course, you would think that this is going to be a match where Spurs should roll, especially after taking care of business in the Champions League with Borussia Dortmund. But that being said, we also know that results in the Champions League do not correlate to Premier League form. And of course, Spurs are coming off a dreadful loss at home to West Ham United. More or less, Spurs spent most of that game giving West Ham too much respect. And I think from this standpoint, this is something that we absolutely cannot do again. That being said, when you look at how Spurs are lining up today, some might say, okay, cool. It looks a little defensive. And I probably would agree. Let's go ahead and take a look at today's lineup for Spurs. They are going to be lining up in a 3-4-2-1. In net, like always, is Guillermo Vicario. And I would it was kind of interesting because I actually thought this might be the opportunity for Kinski to get some work, considering that Vicario's form hasn't exactly been great. No dice as Vicario is back in there. The back three is going to be Danso on the right, Romero playing in the central area, wearing the captain's armband, and of course, Mickey van de Ven will be off the left-hand side. The midfield four, the two wing backs are going to be Jed Spence off the left and Pedro Porro on the right. No surprise there, although you were kind of wondering if Destiny Udogie might get into the mix. He is actually on the bench for today's game, but it will be Jed Spence. The midfield double pivot will be Yves Bissouma and Conor Gallagher. And I actually like this a little bit because one of the things that that we saw from Yves Bissouma the last time we saw him, it looked like he was playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. When you look at the work rate that he provided in AFCON, coming back to Spurs, getting an opportunity to play, it looked like he was actually on point. And I always love players that have a chip on their shoulder, and maybe Bissouma has something to prove. And what that does is allow Conor Gallagher to be able to roam a little bit higher up the pitch, to be a little bit more involved in the attack. And also when you consider that left-hand side, that combination play between Odegaard and Spence, Gallagher has an opportunity to get involved with that as well too. Speaking of the attacking three, underneath will be Xavi Simons off the right and Odegaard off the left, with Dominic Solanke up top. And considering the way that Thomas Frank likes to use the strikers, Dominic Solanke has the ability to drop deep, make a touch, get back and involved, and get into the box to score. We saw that on Tuesday with Borussia Dortmund. That goal that he scored, by the way, started with him making a touch and then off the shoulder making a run back into the box. It looked like he was a little late, but that being said, he still scored nonetheless. So that is going to be Spurs, how Spurs will line up today. I'm a little bit apprehensive with this one again because results do not correlate between the Champions League and form in the Premier League. Spurs have yet to prove that they can actually carry over some of that momentum and that good feeling into the Premier League. Now, if there is an opportunity to do it, it's today against a team that is absolutely fighting for their life down in the bottom three. Speaking of Burnley, let's go ahead and show you guys how they line up today. They're also going to be in a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-3. In net will be Dubravka. The back three is going to be Humphreys, Tuanzebe, and Esteve, who I actually like quite a bit. I think Esteve is one of the more underrated center backs in the Premier League. I actually think his longevity with Burnley is actually quite impressive. The midfield four, it will be Kyle Walker, who's wearing the captain's armband off the right, and Pires off the left. The midfield two will be Florentino and Ukachukawa. Say that name 3 times fast. And then, of course, the attacking three will be Anthony off the left, Edwards off the right, of course, obviously 2 former Spurs and Edwards and Walker, and then Borja through the middle, attacking as a striker. Now, as we kind of get into this one, I have to make it known, and I know that some people have accused me of having an agenda. Okay, there's not an agenda. Really, what it comes down to is my biggest issue is that Thomas Frank gives too much respect to his opponent, far too much respect, when really it almost seems to ignore what Spurs in essence need to be doing for the day. We saw that against West Ham. We saw it against Sunderland. We've seen it too many times. And if there is an opportunity to really be on the front foot and take it to a team, it's going to be today. One of my biggest issues is the fact, like we saw last week against West Ham United, certainly is going to play effect today, is the fact that Burnley have absolutely nothing to lose. And what you expect Burnley to do is drop 10 behind the ball and be far more defensive. There is a way that teams can beat Spurs, and the blueprint is out there, and that is, putting yourself in a position where you can press high up the pitch, disrupting the rhythm of Spurs, because Spurs, unfortunately, in those situations can't link 2 passes together, and they don't provide an outlet from the press in order to progress the ball forward. And at times we get stuck in a situation where the out ball is to either of the wing back, and then what ends up happening is that they get closed down. There's no midfield progression to actually play the ball into a central area, and so what ends up happening is the ball ends up going back to a center back, back to a keeper, or it's going to get launched forward. And usually, more oftentimes than not, we usually concede possession. And so for me, that's a little bit of a worry. Now, granted, when you look at a Scott Parker team, you would just assume that it's going to be, it's going to be rigid. It's going to be very defensive. But that being said, it wouldn't surprise me, because we saw it last week against West Ham United. That was the same running theme. That Nuno was just going to drop back, be far more defensive, and that necessarily wasn't the case. As a matter of fact, there were times where West Ham actually pressed quite well, and unfortunately, we weren't able to recover. They nicked the early goal, and they ended up getting one late as we were trying to throw anything at the board to see if it would stick, and it didn't. And so, from that standpoint, this is why this match actually kind of worries me. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. Through the first couple parts of from the first quarter of the season, Spurs were actually very good on the road, and that pragmatic style of play actually suited them quite well, and they were able to get some very good results. And that was the only reason why we were where we were when we started in November. But since that point, our road form hasn't been great. I think the only victory that we got on the road was at Crystal Palace, and let's be honest, Crystal Palace absolutely battered us, and because they couldn't find the equalizer, which allowed us to get that 1-0 victory. Although I think we had a couple opportunities that were chalked off to offsides, and it would have been a far more convincing victory for us. But outside of that, Dr. Tottenham 100% shows up in these type of games where, against Bournemouth, we were in a situation where, they hadn't lost. I think they hadn't had a win in 11 matches, and Dr. Tottenham made them feel good. Same thing with West Ham. And my biggest fear is Dr. Tottenham is going to cure what's ailing Burnley. And of course, Burnley actually has had a couple nice results in the last couple of weeks, taking a point off Liverpool and Man City. So from that standpoint, they're probably in a good position. They may be feeling good. So let me know what your guys' score prediction is. The chat is open, so go ahead and drop your predictions in the chat. I think on the Irish Hotspur this morning, I predicted a 1-1 draw. But that being said, yesterday it was a 2-1 Burnley win, so I'm somewhere right in that middle. I would love to be proven wrong. But that being said, go ahead and let me know what your score prediction is. Quickly before we begin, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button and also hit the notification bell because we are one away from 400. And I want to be at 500 by the end of the season. So go ahead and hook a brother up. Yeah, man, it's going to be fun. And again, for those that are watching it on TikTok Live, do me a favor. The link is in the description. Head over and give me a sub. Or if you just want to hit the follow button, you're more than welcome to do that here on TikTok Live. So we are actually getting set here as the players are out. And Spurs look like they will be holding possession to start this one. And, again, I can't stress how massive this fixture is for Spurs. Both teams badly needing 3 points. Spurs will be playing from right to left. And we are underway now as that ball will head out to Vicario. And I absolutely hate when they do that. At least they didn't launch this one long. But here we go. Spurs are going to be in possession here as they're going to play one in. This one's going to fly to the left-hand side. Oh, and that ball went right across the 6-yard box. But there was nobody there to play that one home. And now Burnley are going to have to try to play one forward. That ball overshoots. But it looks like it finds Christian Romero. And Spurs now will reset. Almost a goal within the first couple minutes right there as they play this one out to Pedro Porro, who's going to try to play it forward. There's Conor Gallagher along the right-hand touchline. He has no choice but to play it back, and Porro now will play it all the way back, and it finds Vicario. And it looks like Burnley's trying to press the issue here. But it will drop to Kevin Danso. And he will make that switch all the way. As Romero will find looks like he will find Xavi Simons, who dropped deep there. And there's a deflection here. As Spurs retain possession here. That's weird. I thought that was going to be a whistle. As Burnley's pressing the issue here. But it does find an outlet here. And there's a ball that's going to get played forward. Here's Odebear, cuts in. Lays it off into a central. Oh, and Xavi's pass is intercepted. And now here come Burnley trying to counter. As Edwards makes a nice move against Van de Ven, but Van de Ven actually was right there with the tackle. And here's Jed Spence. And then there's going to be a ball forward as he's looking to Dominic Solanke, who keeps it in. Good hustle right there by Solanke to keep possession deep. Here's Jed Spence. And finally it finds Xavi. Xavi moves to the inside part. Now he's going to make the switch. And now the ball has to go back. But it does find Mickey Van de Ven off the left-hand side. Now they're going to try to progress this forward. Here's Jed Spence. 1v1 against Walker. Plays it in. Oh, but it's taken away right here. Here's Jed Spence now off the left-hand side. Spence is going to try to shoot, but right there, covered up nicely, is Dubravka. As Spurs had good ball movement right there in this attacking sequence, and Jed Spence just decided to fire. Not bad. As Burnley tried to play it forward quickly, but it finds the mitts of Vicario. And Spurs now will reset. And I do want to thank the 1,000 of you that are tuning in right now. Much love to you guys. As Danso will play this one forward. Good hold-up play by Solanke. But he couldn't hold on, so now Burnley will try to reset between their back three. As we are about 3.5 minutes in here to the first half. Burnley, by the way, is 0-4-9 in their last 13 in the Premier League, as this one will make its way all the way back to Kyle Walker. Is he going to play this inside? And that ball shoots down the right-hand side. as Edwards now is going to have to backpedal as it gets played back. As Spurs are doing a good job of cutting off the wings here. And now here comes the press as Burnley is now back to their 18 and they play this back to Dubravka. And he's going to try the left-hand side. Spurs will come down with it. And it looks like that ball is going to get played off by Conor Gallagher. And here's the Burnley throw-in, immediately taken away. And it finds the foot of Kevin Danso. So right now, as we're essentially 5 minutes in the first half, it's been all Spurs possession, which isn't exactly surprising. You would probably expect this. The question is can Spurs, finish a lot of these attacking sequences? You would think that that would be the case against a team like Burnley. Here's Van de Ven on the left-hand touchline, taken away right there, played forward. And they tried to find Edwards there, but all they found was Yves Bissouma. Here comes Jed Spence racing down the left-hand side. He cuts in, and that ball was taken away. And Spurs immediately take it away. And there's going to be a whistle. And it looks like it's going to be offside Spurs. So good ball movement right there. But, offside should never happen in that situation. You're going to have to look. You're going to have to be aware where the defenders are placed there. So Dubravka now will have the free kick as he comes out of his goal. As that ball is going to be skied down the left-hand side there, as it's going to take a bounce. As it looks like last played off the Spurs as it hits the left-hand touchline. And there's a whistle immediately. And it looks like Anthony was absolutely just manhandled right there. So this again will be a Burnley free kick. And if there's any gauge about how the first 6 minutes you're wondering how Burnley are going to get forward, there's a steal right there. Good defense by Burnley as they do find the outlet. And Mickey Van de Ven right there did a fantastic job. There's a good ball right through the middle. Oh, taken away by Yves Bissouma. But Burnley holding close as that ball goes out to the left. Looks like it was Anthony trying to play one in. Instead of going high, he goes low. Immediately taken away by Spurs. Good defensive stand right there as that was Burnley's first opportunity to get forward. And it looks like Spurs were trying to counter right there. As Humphreys plays it out, so Spurs will have the throw in off the right-hand touchline. And it'll be Pedro Porro. Spurs absolutely need this 3 points. I think it kind of goes without saying that if they drop this, considering West Ham won today, and they actually look very convincing against Sunderland, that these 3 points we absolutely cannot drop. As Van de Ven will move forward, lays it off to Spence a little too heavy with that pass right there as Van de Ven. And that ball is going to make its way all the way to Romero, who will play it over to Danso as that ball swings around from the left to the right. There's going to be a deflection and it goes out. So Spurs will have to throw in again. And it's something where they absolutely cannot take Burnley for granted because they actually can steal points in this situation. As here's Jed Spence trying to flick it on forward, but it looks like it finds Edwards, who plays it immediately forward, and now there's a shot out to the right. As Burnley's going to try to play this one into the box, they do. Cuts, chipped, headed, back post. Oh, and Burnley. Oh, he was offside. Oh, oh, and it looked like it was Pires that was at the back post. As that ball was chipped into a nice area, Pires was way offside. He was about 5 body lengths offside. Spurs dodged an absolute bullet right there. Had they conceded in that position, oh boy. But there you go. That's just an example of how quick Burnley can progress the ball forward. And of course, with Spurs' penchant for leaking goals, that would have been absolutely disastrous. And here's Vicario, who has to quickly play it off. And that ball is going to go all the way down. Kept in. It looks like it was kept in by Jed Spence. Oh, no, it wasn't. It's going to go out. Good hustle by Jed right there. As Jed Spence actually had a good shift on Tuesday in the Champions League by playing in that left wing position. As that ball now is going to be played all the way out to the left-hand side for Burnley. They have the overlap. Plays it. Cuts into the box. And there's going to be a deflection. As Conor Gallagher does a good job of holding that in. Now all of a sudden, Pedro Porro does a good job. As there was some good hustle right there to keep that ball deep for Burnley. And now all of a sudden, here comes Spurs now. As they tried to counter. As it looked like it was Humphreys there that tracked that one down. As now Burnley will play out of a little press as they're going to try to work this down the right-hand side. Here's Kyle Walker. Walker, of course, the former Spur. We probably should have kept. As that ball has to get played back, and now immediately Burnley's trying to figure out a way to work up the left-hand side. As that ball will get out, so Spurs will have a throw-in. I will say that Burnley isn't necessarily showing fear. Outside of the first 5 or 6 minutes where, Spurs were trying to press forward, it just took them a couple minutes to get their feet. And now Burnley are doing a pretty good job. As Danso has to go back to retrieve that. So Vicario now will play it all the way back out to Van de Ven. And Van de Ven loses his hold real quick. As that ball gets played back to Vicario. And Burnley really is pressing the issue here. And now it looks like Danso's trapped. As Pedro Porro. Good hustle right there. Spurs hold possession. Here's Pedro Porro now. He's going to make the switch. There's Van de Ven. As he slows things down. And we'll find Xavi, who's now going to try to play one forward. And that'll go off a Burnley defender. Conor Gallagher, some nice hustle there off the left-hand side. What we haven't seen yet are inside, cheeky inside runs. It looks like the attacking shape is still relatively the same. There's a turnover right here. Here's Jed Spence. Tries to play it in a central area, but it's going to be an interception right there. And now Burnley is trapped. That ball is going to come down. Here's Pedro Porro, plays one in. Oh, and it just sneaks on by Dubravka right there. So that'll get out for a goal kick. And I don't think Pedro Porro was actually shooting there. It looked like he was trying to play a ball in there. But there was nobody at the far post. And that's the disconcerting thing. There are no inside runs from Xavi or Gallagher. in those type of situations. As that ball will get headed forward, it comes down to Burnley. No whistle. All right. Spurs will have possession here. As that ball will go back to Danso. Now they're going to try to cycle this one. But it goes back to Danso. Here's Porro. Tries to play forward. Now he's going to launch one. Trying to get Dominic Solanke, but there's Dubravka right there. And now he's going to launch one. Good defense right there by Christian Romero. Oh, that's a bad turnover. Oh. And I think there's potentially going to be a whistle here. Now they're going to say offside. And Burnley, yeah, he was 100%. 100% Borja was offside as Edwards came in. That was kind of a hard tackle right there by Christian Romero as he stepped on his foot. And I think Spurs got to get very much got away with that one. As we find out what the brouhaha on the pitch is all about. Interesting. I wonder if they're going to have VAR take a look at this. The call was no. Yeah, I was going to say the call was offside. That overrides any foul that was committed on the play. So Spurs will have the goal kick here, as it will start here with Vicario. He's going to play this one off the left. Here's Van de Ven. Nice little chip forward. And that's taken away by Burnley. But quickly back in Spurs possession as that one's going to get played back. As Romero has to play it back to Vicario. But it's back at the foot of Romero. That's a nice little pass right here. It unlocks Conor Gallagher. Instead of pushing forward, he pushes it wide. And he finds Odebear. As that ball has to get played back to Danso. Interesting. Me personally, I would have preferred off the half turn if Gallagher would have just pushed forward. As there's a deflection again. But here's Basuma making a run. Here's Basuma. Lays it off. There's a ball in. And that's going to get cleared. And it looks like it's coming over is VDV. Finds Jed. Jed tries to make the turn. And there's nobody there, and that ball has to get played back. And Spurs again. Can't seem to find any rhythm in the attacking third. And there's a turnover right here. Oh, good defense right there by Conor Gallagher. As that ball was immediately played in the box. Here's Jed Spence. And now Basuma will have to play this back to Romero. So Spurs start their possession over again here, as they are just cycling it back between their back three here. As Porro now will try to play that one. That's going to take a deflection. So as we are pushing the first 20 minutes, it almost feels like that first initial push has that intensity has kind of slowed down a little bit as Spurs have kind of gotten into a comfortable rhythm when it comes to possession. As that ball will get out. It's like that was off of Pires. It goes out. It goes off a Spur. As actually it'll be a free kick here for Burnley. Not exactly the most dangerous positions off the left-hand side, kind of deep. Talking about 30-ish yards from the 18 as they're going to play this one back. And now that ball's going to go back post to the right, headed in. It'll drop. Cleared. As Walker will hold possession as he was being chased by Xavi. And that ball gets played all the way to the right, and it looks like it was Jed Spence coming up to defend. As that ball finds its way back to the keeper, and Burnley will try to start again. And there's a takeaway. As that play over to Jed Spence. Spence is going to try to play this one in, and immediately it's headed out. Here's Basuma. Plays it all the way out to the left. It's Xavi. He's going to try to play one in. Spence is defended by two. Xavi's going to try to work his way into the box. And now they're going to say free kick to Spurs, as it looks like it was Edwards. That is the guilty party here. So this will give Spurs a very, very dangerous free kick here, right at the edge of the box, off the left-hand side. Their first real look at goal here. And it looks like it'll be, Pedro Porro? Can Spurs cash in here? As Solanke will go back behind the wall here. You wonder if he's going to try to play this short. Here we go. Here's Porro. And he plays one in and he hits the side of the net. Close. So Burnley dodged a bullet here. It was a good kick, just a little bit right there to the left of the near post. Got a good kick on it too. As on the ensuing goal kick, as Burnley tried to play it quick, it goes out. So Spurs now will have possession again. As Jed Spence will play it into Xavi, who plays it to Basuma. Now Spurs are going to try to work its way down the right-hand side. Here's Odebear. As that ball makes its way back to Danso. Gallagher now. And now it's all the way back to Romero. And he's got to play it back to Vicario. God damn it. As Vicario now will try to launch this one down. But all it does is find Dubravka. And he will pick it up. As Dubravka will launch it centrally. Headed up. As it does find Xavi. And Spurs will now have possession as that ball gets played back to VDV. As Spurs try to reset here with their possession. as it finds its way back to Danso. There is just no rhythm with this attack as that ball is now going to be taken away. Oh, but here we go. Turnover right here in the midfield. Here's Jed Spence now with the overlap. Here's Xavi. And that ball is going to get tapped out as Kyle Walker came over to make sure that the backside was cut off. Good overlap right there by Xavi Simons. Did that go out for a... Oh, yeah, Kyle Walker did a good job of playing it off of Xavi right there. So this will be a goal kick for Burnley. As Dubravka now will launch this thing. As VDV will head it forward. As Romero will play this out of bounds. So Burnley now will have to throw in. As we are about 25 and a half minutes in the first half. Spurs, yes, are dominating possession, but that being said, man, they can't seem to find that final pass into the attacking third. Their attacking sequences right now are just kind of disjointed. As this will be with VDV, plays it forward to Xavi, taken away. Good play right there. But now Xavi takes it right back away. Sloppy touch right there by Burnley. And there's going to be another whistle here as Xavi takes another hit. This one was Florentino. And so again, Spurs will have another free kick in a very dangerous area. That was a little bit of an aggressive tackle here. So Spurs pushing 27 minutes again. We'll have the free kick. This time it'll be a little bit farther out, maybe 5 yards further out than the last free kick we had. We'll see what Pedro Porro has in mind on this one. I would probably assume they're gonna go back post here, because it looks like they got VDV and Romero there. As we're almost set here, here's Porro now, and he will take a shot. Good save right there by Dubravka. He went actually near post. And now that ball is going to get cleared out. Good save right there by Dubravka. As Jed Spence now will play it back to Vicario. Much better free kick right there by Jed Spence. Man. As here's Jed Spence now. You know, I got to say, Burnley actually looks pretty comfortable without the ball. As there is a scrum against the right-hand touchline right here. And I believe this is going to be a Burnley throw in here. And it looks like they're going to have to do this again. Spurs so far have absolutely dominated possession. I think it's been about a good 10, 15 minutes since Burnley got forward on the offside call. That ball's taken away. As Dominic Solanke tried to hold possession. Now that ball's going to get pushed up. Here comes Burnley. As they cross the halfway line. Nice little flick forward. It gets played off to the right-hand side. Here comes Burnley now. Oh, nice pass right here. as that ball will shoot in to the back post. Now it's cleared. As Burnley, that passing was precise right there to get them in a position. But there's a deflection now, and Spurs will come away with the ball. Defensively, Spurs have actually held together quite nicely. As VDV now will play it down the left-hand side. Here's Jed Spence. He's got space. Closing in is Walker. And Spence will... looks like Spence will actually beat him. But I believe the ball will go out past the end line right there. So this looks like it'll be a Burnley goal kick here. But Jed Spence's his first move right there absolutely burned Kyle Walker as Burnley tried to play it forward right there, but it was Christian Romero to take care of that. I like the idea right there with Burnley just playing one over the top real quick. They had a 1v1. Romero, though, too quick. As this will be a Spurs throw-in off the left side as Jed Spence will play it forward. As looks like it was Solanke who came away with it. And here's Basuma. And now they'll play it all the way to the right-hand side. Here's Gallagher. Oh, nice move by Odebear. Lays it off. That ball will get crossed into the backside. And that ball is going to get headed up over the crossbar. And that looks like that was Solanke's first opportunity right there. Is that ball not exactly placed into a good area right there. Drifted. But Spurs will come away again with the possession. Here's Xavi. As now Basuma will play it all the way to Danso. And they will try. The right-hand side as Porro plays it back to Danso. As Romero has to play it back to Vicario. And the way that this is actually kind of played out, it looks like Jed Spence is actually playing higher up the pitch as a left-sided winger. And it looks like VDV actually is kind of lined up in that wing-back position, playing a little bit higher up. But he will drop back into a back three. Speaking of VDV, he plays it back to Romero. So attacking forward, that's the impression. There's a ball that's going to get played forward, as it looks like Burnley nearly took that one away, as Walker quickly tries to throw it in. As Florentino now play it back. As that's taken away. Here's Connor Gallagher now. On the outside of the 18, plays it forward to Xavi as he's marked by 2. And Xavi has to play it off to Basuma. Here's VDV. Here's Jed Spence now. And Spence will play it. But that ball immediately gets headed away. And it falls to Danso. Here's Porro. We'll lay it off. There's a ball in. Ooh, and it finds Solanke. But the keeper punches it away. There's a shot that skies the crossbar. Oh. And it looks like it found its way to Pedro Porro. And he puts one over the bar. But that ball in from Odebear. Actually did find Solanke, but Dubravka with a nice save. As Spurs did a very good job of moving that ball to the right side. Good move by Odebear to put himself in a position to play one in. As now this ball will come back down to Spurs. Here comes Xavi Simons racing forward. Here's Spence. He's got the overlap. It's VDV. And that ball's taken away. And Yves Bissouma will slide tackle that ball out. So this will be a Burnley throw-in. I will give Spurs credit. They are doing a very good job in the middle of the park, not allowing Burnley to play through. Yves Bissouma has actually played pretty well today. As Burnley will hold possession here as they are trying to figure out a way. And it looks like Spurs will get another turnover. Here's Odebear. Odebear will shoot. Ooh, and Dubravka with a nice save right there. Good opportunity right there by Wilson Odebear. Spurs are absolutely pressing forward here. They are applying pressure. And it feels like they are on the door of scoring a goal here. And again, another good opportunity as Odebear put a great ball in. It was Dubravka with an even better save. As this will be Spurs, I think this is their first corner here at the 36.5-minute mark. As that ball gets whipped in, back post, punched away. Ooh. Oh, and it was Dubravka again, standing absolutely tall on his line as that ball actually gets played out, and it was an absolute missile off the header. And I think that was Wilson Odebear. And then Conor Gallagher at the near post. And it was Dubravka. Good Lord, he was standing absolutely tall. So this will be another corner here for Spurs as they play this short. There's a ball in. Headed up. Oh, and there it is. There it is. It's VDV. VDV off the rebound. And again, it's another center back goal off a set piece. And finally, Spurs, they've been knocking on the door for the last 20 minutes and actually find the goal. And Spurs now will grab a 1-0 lead. As we see this again, that ball went near post. It gets headed up. And it just finds its way to Mickey Van de Ven, who was just sitting there in a central area and just puts an absolute missile into the near post. And Dubravka can't come up with it. So Spurs finally grab the lead. And of course, it comes off the set piece. But nonetheless, 1-0 Spurs. And this comes in the 38th minute. And it looks like the traveling supporters have something to sing about. As Dubravka will play this forward, Solanke will head it up. And Kyle Walker now is going to have to head this back to Dubravka. So Spurs find the lead on actually kind of a hard-fought goal right there. As Dubravka now will launch this forward. Kevin Danso will find Connor Gallagher here. As Pedro Porro now is going to have to play this one back to Kevin Danso. And it does find Vicario. And here's Xavi. As Gallagher now will move it to the right. That actually misses Pedro Porro, who fell down. Luckily, Wilson Odobert was there to hold possession. And now it's Yves Bissouma. As now Burnley's not even attempting to get forward to try to even play a mid block, as they have all 10 behind the ball. As that ball finds its way back to Vicario. As quickly as I said that, as soon as the ball gets progressed backwards, Burnley's two forwards start pressing. So Vicario now will launch one. As it does find Solanke. Unbelievable hold up right there. Here comes Xavi. Tries to play it in. Oh, and Dubravka. And looks like it was Wilson Odobert that put one on right there. In traffic. As Xavi with a nice little flick. And Wilson Odobert actually, between two defenders, put on a nice one. Here comes Burnley now. As that ball gets played forward. And no whistle on that tackle. Good tackle right there by Spurs. As Borja was trying to make something happen. And there's a Spur down on the play right now. I think it was Connor Gallagher. But he's up. As Vicario now will have the ball, as he's gonna play one long. And it's gonna be taken away by Jet Spence. Now that ball gets pushed to the right-hand side. Here's Odobert cutting in. And Xavi's pass just a little under. But remarkably, he takes it away. So the intensity now is kind of ranched up back again. Now that Spurs have actually, they're searching for number 2 here. As this ball makes its way to Romero. And now back to Bissouma. As Connor Gallagher was absolutely taken down from behind there. And there will be a whistle. As Gallagher will be up. Hopefully, it's nothing serious. The last thing we need is another injured midfielder. And it was Okachukwu. That was the guilty party. So this will be a free kick here. And play has resumed. As we are now in the 43rd minute, Spurs leading 1-0. As that ball has to get played back to Dubravka. As Florentino absolutely tried to get that ball back, but here's Wilson Odobert off the right-hand side, trying to play the 1-2 with Pedro Porro, but then Connor Gallagher has to play this one back, and that goes all the way back to Vicario. In the run of play, Spurs, that ball is going to get out. As Christian Romero absolutely could not handle that pass for some reason. So now all of a sudden, Burnley has a throw in deep in Spurs territory here. Here's Walker. Edwards tries to put one on. That ball gets deflected. Now Burnley will play one to the right. Here's Walker. That ball's going to get played out by VDV. A little pressure here from Burnley. And this is where Spurs have to keep their head, because this is where Spurs have a tendency to leak goals here. Here's Walker. And Walker's going to play one on. Oh, it's a goal! And Tuzanabe has equalized right before the first half. Oh, how does that happen? Right before the end of the first half. Tuzanabe, and it was Walker who just plays one in, and he's just unmarked. He's just absolutely left alone. Unbelievable. As we have 2 minutes remaining here of extra time here in the first half, and now all of a sudden Spurs inexplicably will leak a goal here. Oh, unfreaking believable. As that ball gets played forward, as that'll drop. As it looks like Pedro Porro will play it back to Vicario. As we are in the 46 and a half minute, as Vicario is going to try to play this one to to Van de Ven, but it comes down, and that'll get put out of play. So this will be a Spurs throw in here as we're marching towards the end of the first half. But unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. As we welcome Carl Slim Blue in, who says, big up, Steve, big up, Carl, man. All that, by the way, all of that, all that work in the first half to take the lead, all that pressure getting forward is erased in one fell swoop as Tuanzanabe was left unmarked for the equalizer. Unbelievable. I was about to say, I believe that we will win. Not sure now. Yeah, totally. As we are getting close to the end of the first half, Spurs will have to throw it. As that ball gets played back to Vicario, so Spurs will restart here. As this will find Yves Bissouma. And there's the whistle. So Spurs did have the advantage there in the first half, and it was actually kind of a thing of beauty as Spurs again in the run of play, not so much, but on a set piece, we're able to cash in and take that 1-0 lead. And it looked like that front-footed pressure was going to lead to a second, but for whatever reason, they just could not find that final pass into the third. They had a couple good moments with crosses, but to no avail. And then right before the end of the first half, and I was saying it in real time, it was like, this is where you have to keep your head, because Spurs inexplicably leak goals in those moments. And sure enough, 30 seconds after I said it, they leaked a goal. And so Burnley now is level at the half, 1-1. I do want to thank the 1,900 of you that are tuning in, 1981 to be exact. It's awesome that you guys are tuning into this one. Make sure, by the way, that you guys hit the like and subscribe buttons, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any more of these Hotspur live streams, as we do them pretty much every single week. And also, I want to thank all those that are tuning in here on TikTok Live. It's awesome that you guys have decided to join me for this live stream. The link is in my description, so you can go ahead and head on over to YouTube and hit the subscribe buttons, if you will, or hit the like buttons. Or if you just rather to stay on TikTok, you're more than welcome to follow as well too. Anything would be very much appreciated. Look out for your boy. All right, let's go ahead and get into the halftime stats. And it will tell a story that, Spurs have pretty much been dominant in this first half. And it is Spurs are leading the possession battle 67-33. XG 0.72 for Spurs to 0.67 for Burnley. So it's actually closer than, it's absolutely closer than I would assume, but it is what it is. Total shots, 10 for Spurs, 3 for Burnley. Shots on target, 7-1 Spurs. Sorry about that. There we go. All right. Shots on target, 7-1. Spurs, big chances, both 1-1. Big chances missed, Spurs 1. Burnley 0. Accurate passes, Spurs 293, Burnley 123. Fouls committed 3-2 for Burnley. Corners, Spurs actually have a 2-0 advantage on that one. It's actually kind of shambolic, the fact that we only have 2 corners in the first half, but it is what it is. Now, here's the interesting thing, though, right? Spurs, do lead the XG battle 0.72 to 0.67, but from open play, it's only 0.24. And as bad as that is, Burnley's only 0.05. From a set play, Burnley leads that 0.67 to 0.48. As we look into the shots department, block shots, Burnley 1, Spurs 0. Shots inside the box, 6 for Spurs, 2 for Burnley. Shots outside the box, 4-1. In the passing department, total Spurs 339, Burnley 170. Passes in the own half, Spurs 163, Burnley 77. Passes in the opposition half, 130 to 46. Accurate long balls, 13-8 Spurs. Accurate crosses, 3-1 Spurs. Throws are even at 9. Touches in the opposition box, 15 to 6. That went to Spurs. And offsides, Burnley has 2 to Spurs 1. There has been no discipline in this match, so there's no yellow cards. Tackles, Burnley leads the tackle battle 12-8. They also lead the interception battle 8-7. Spurs have 9 clearances to Burnley's 8, and keeper saves 6-0, as Dubravka actually had himself a pretty solid first half. In the duel battle, Spurs leads that 25-16. Ground duels are even at 15. Aerial duels 10-1 to Spurs, and successful dribbles 4-1. And so it does paint a picture in that first half that Spurs actually were on the front foot for most of it. But again, from the run of play, Spurs just have not been able at all to figure out that password that will unlock it, and it sucks. They're gonna, they have to keep guessing. What was that password? How do we unlock this thing? And they had to settle for a goal from VDV. The question is what Spurs team will show up in the second half. They are well known to take their foot off the gas, and I would probably assume that had they went into the break up 1, that's exactly what would have happened. Now it's going to be interesting to see exactly what Spurs team will show up in the second half. Is this going to be something where they're going to allow a Burnley winners at some point? Are they, are they just going to sit back and try to play the style of football that we know is, not going to work? All right, let's take a look at the chat here, because we do have Carlson Blue who says big clubs will definitely come for VDV now. I don't think that goal was the one that was going to make a difference. I think big clubs have fallen in love with VDV for some time now. But that being said, he still has 3 years left on his contract, 2.5 years left on his contract, whatever the case may be. He's not going anywhere whatsoever. That's just definitely not going to happen. I would probably assume that if he doesn't want to resign, we're going to hold him until the last possible opportunity. It would be absolutely foolish to get rid of VDV at this point. Wayne Bonner says, well, piss poor equalizer concede on his own. Defense still standing, still Vic staying on his line. Yeah, but here's the thing, though, right? They have the inexplicable ability just to shut off at the wrong times, and that was something right there in the moment, Wayne, where I was like, you got to stand tall here because this is where we typically concede, and sure enough, 5 seconds later they conceded. And by the way, Tubanazi or whatever his name is, Tubansi, Twanzebe was unmarked, unbelievably unmarked. Slow game, but we're the better team. Second half is going to be interesting. Yeah, I would say that you were absolutely right. We are the better team at the moment. But that being said, it's like, possession doesn't mean anything if you lead the possession. It's what you do with the ball when it matters. And unfortunately, we just are very much not good in the run of play. Let's see. Why don't you tart up the screen a bit, with the scoreboard? Yeah, here's the thing, man. I'm working on OBS. I just still have yet to figure out how that works, but I'm getting some help, and so the live streams will be a little bit better. Trust me. Let's see. Yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to happen, Carl. Final third still lacking chemistry. Yeah, I would agree. And this was something that I thought that Matisse Tell would come back into, because it seemed like, with Matisse Tell on that left side, I thought that would have, he was actually starting to round into form. And of course, now we see Jed Spence now playing higher up the pitch, which I'm not exactly the biggest fan of. I don't think Jed Spence is that great of a forward, if I'm being honest with you. Dubravka can be pressured and gotten at. He doesn't like to catch the ball, favoring the camera shots. Yeah, here's the thing, man. Dubravka, I actually thought Dubravka actually had a pretty solid first half. His ability to save, especially at point blank range, is actually quite impressive. I will agree with you a little bit that I think you hit it right on the head. But still, he was standing tall on multiple opportunities there in the first half. Yeah, it was the shot. I think it was from Porro from outside the box, and that was an absolute cracker. And yeah, man, that was a good save. He goes on to say, Tell will destroy Burnley backline. Got to bring him in the second half. Yeah, I would agree. Before we start the second half, let's take a look around the EPL real quick. And we are going to start this morning. West Ham absolutely destroying Sunderland 3-1 as Somerville got things started off in the 14th minute. Then Jared Bowen in the 28th minute, and then Matias Fernandez in the 43th. All first half goals as Brian Brobbery scored late in the 66th for Sunderland. But goddamn, West Ham now all of a sudden is coming alive. That was an absolute surprise. I thought Sunderland would take care of business. That's not the case. Brighton leads Fulham at the half as Yasin Ayari scored in the 28th minute. As Brighton is doing a really good job at Craven Cottage. But that being said, we'll see exactly what the second half has in store. Fulham's actually a pretty good home side. Manchester City currently leaves Wolves 2-0 as Omar Mamouche scored in the 6th minute. And new arrival Antoine Semenyo scored in the 45+2 as Man City currently leads that one 2-0. Later today, Bournemouth will host Liverpool. And this is a massive game for Spurs because if Bournemouth happens to get points, and now that West Ham got points as well too, it's imperative that Spurs absolutely handle business in the second half. The last thing you want to do is pull yourself within 7 of the drop. I hate to say it, it actually might be a reality. Crystal Palace will host Chelsea tomorrow. Newcastle will host Villa. Brentford hosts Forest, and that's another one that you have to keep an eye on too, because if Spurs figure out a way to drop this one, and Forest get points and Bournemouth get points. Now all of a sudden it becomes interesting. Same thing with Leeds, who, by the way, travel to the Hill Dickinson to face Everton on Monday. Arsenal hosts Man United as well too, and that is going to be an absolute cracker. Let's see. He's going to say, how's the current table looking? We saw West Ham won. Yeah, currently, let's pull this up real quick, just for grins. Right now, as it stands, we are currently sitting in 13th place. If this were actually to hold, we move to 28 points, even with Crystal Palace, who are in 14th place. But Bournemouth are sitting at 25. Leeds are, at 27. Leeds are at 25. And Forest is at 22, and now that West Ham won, they're now up to 20. So they're 2 points. They're 2 points off the under the drop right there. So, that's the thing. It's like if Forest get points, if Leeds get points, if Bournemouth happens to get points, now all of a sudden we end up dropping this one. It moves us further down the pitch and closer to a relegation scrap that we absolutely need. So that's why it's imperative that we get all these three, because at the very least that'll move us to 30 and a little bit more of a comfortable position behind Fulham, who's sitting in 12th. And so it's absolutely imperative. But that being said, it's like, if Burnley wins, good Lord. Let's see. West Ham are a couple points off of Forest. Yeah, 100%. Wayne Bonner goes off to said Basuma's playing well. Yeah, no, Basuma I was actually kind of happy that Basuma was in the lineup today, because quite honestly, I thought he actually played pretty well the last time we saw him. And I like guys that have a chip on their shoulder. I really do. And it feels like Basuma has something to prove, that he's trying to prove to Thomas Frank that it was absolutely wrong of him not to bring him into the first team through the first, half a season. And now because of injuries, he's actually almost forced to play. And these are the type of performances that go a very long way if you're Yves Basuma, because now all of a sudden Basuma turns into somebody that Thomas Frank could potentially trust. Let's see. Nate Ski, what's up, brother? He says, what's up, Stateside? It's good to see you, man. It's good. I hope you're doing well. You and your RI Rhode Island FC. I absolutely love it. As we are getting close to the start of the second half, I do want to say thank you to the 2,026 that are tuning into this one. And then, of course, those that are tuning in on TikTok Live as well, too. The description, the link is in my description. So if you want to head over to YouTube to hit that subscribe button, I would be very happy with that. Or if you want to stay here on TikTok Live, you're more than welcome to hit the follow button as well, too. Multitude of opportunities to get at me. So if you want to talk ball, man, let's talk ball. And, of course, for you guys as well, too. Hit the like and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Show some love to your boy. All right. So the second half is going to be interesting as Spurs are coming back on the pitch. It does not look like there's going to be any change from the 11. And I was kind of hoping we were going to see a little Matisse Tell action. But that being said, it's going to be interesting to see exactly which Spurs team are going to come out on the second half, because if they don't come out on the front foot, this is going to have this is actually going to be a potential, this actually has a potential to be a letdown. One of the things they absolutely cannot do is have that same mentality where all of a sudden now you're going to kind of take your foot off the gas a little bit and play for one goal. That should not be the objective here. The objective here is to stay on the front foot, continue to apply pressure, get that second goal, get that third goal, and really put Burnley away. Like that would be the ultimate objective in this scenario. One of the things that Spurs have yet to do is really put a team to the sword. I know some people were saying that against Borussia Dortmund, that was not putting a team to the sword. As a matter of fact, up to at the half, they took their foot off the gas. And if it wasn't for the fact that Dortmund was playing a man down and the fact that they were literally just out of rhythm, it made the appearance that happened, but that was not the case. So from that standpoint, man, Spurs have a very good opportunity here in this second half to really just kind of make a statement. And that's something that I would love to see. And it looks like we're about ready to start here the second half, as Burnley now will be playing from right to left. And Spurs will be switching sides as that ball gets played forward from Dubravka. And that ball gets headed out, so Spurs will have to throw in off the right-hand touch line. And it looks like actually Destiny Udoji has checked into this one. As here comes Burnley now. They're holding possession here. As that ball's taken away, it's Jed Spence. There's going to be a whistle there, 100%. So it looks like potentially Pedro Porro has come off. Let me double check here. Yeah, I think that was the case, because it looks like Jed Spence is off the right side. Udoji now is off the left. So it looks like potentially Porro has come off, as Danso will have to play this one back. And Vicario played this down, as looks like Burnley ends up with the ball. Here's Florentino. And they'll play this back out of trouble and into safety, as Esteve will try to work it around. As Spurs are doing a good job of attacking the ball here, as that gets played back to Dubravka, and he will actually send this one forward, as it will find a Burnley attacker. As Esteve now will play it down the left-hand side. As that's a good ball forward. 1v1 in the box. Lays it forward. And there's a shot. Ooh. And I think Van de Ven was there to deflect it. That was an absolute good ball into the box right there. And it was Borja got on the end of it. As we see it again, that was a good ball forward here. And it was played forward, and then Esteve just with a little bit of a stutter step right there at the end, that allowed Van de Ven to get in there for the block. God damn it, Van de Ven is absolutely a beauty. But this will be a Burnley corner here. As that ball will get played short to the outside. I hate it when teams play short. As that ball will go in now, back post, and that'll fly, as that'll get out for a goal kick. So at least they actually got a cross in, but yeah. Playing short on corners never really works out. I absolutely hate it when teams do that, but I digress. So Spurs will have the goal kick here, as Burnley tried to draw first blood, and they nearly did it here in the second half, as Danso now will play it forward. And it was nearly taken away by Burnley. And it is taken away, as they will play this back to safety here. Oh, hard touch right there. And it looks like Xavi Simons came up with it. Now there's going to be a ball forward. It looks like they're playing Jet Spence on. There's the cross, and that'll get away, as that cross was entirely way too high, but Spurs will hold this one in. There's a chip forward. Oh, and Dubravka on Solanke. That was pinpoint. Ooh. As that's going to be tipped to the left-hand side. Here's Xavi. And that ball's going to get cleared. And I would agree with you. Pires has actually played incredibly well today. I would agree with that. as that ball finds its way back to Vicario. So Spurs will reset here. As that ball will take a deflection out, as it'll look like it was Jed Spence there trying to play the ball forward. As Jed Spence off the right-hand side on the last attacking sequence actually had Solanke in a very good position, and he skied it. But then as they were playing it back in, they did find Solanke double covered, but he did get his head on it, and Dubravka made an excellent save right there. Here comes Burnley again. This time it's Kevin Danso, and there's going to be a whistle as Burnley was working it down that left-hand side. And they're going to say that might have been against Borja. As we see it again. It was a good ball forward. Maybe a little too much in the path right there of Kevin Danso, but nonetheless, Spurs will have possession after the restart here. As that ball finds Jed Spence. As we are now in the 51st minute. That's a good ball forward right here. And it looks like Solanke came down to make the touch, tried to spread it wide. Ball goes a little too far forward from Wilson Odobert. As Spurs are pressing, and that ball gets played out. Conor Gallagher, man. Both Gallagher and Basuma played well today. Here's Jed Spence trying to dribble forward. They will hold possession, and now it looks like Florentino is down. And I think play will stop here. And it looks like Florentino kind of got dipped in the face right there as we see it again. Yeah, he did. As Jed Spence pushed off his face right there. Yeah, that's going to get called every time. As the physios are out there to look at Mr. Florentino. As we are, 7 minutes into the second half, Spurs have yet to really get forward with gusto. You're kind of wondering when that's going to take over here. Instead, it's kind of been Burnley that's had the decent chances getting forward. Although I will say on the last attacking sequence when they played Spence forward, that ball was worked in after Spence played it to the left. They nearly got their second off a Solanke header. And plays restart as it will be Danso playing it down to Gallagher. Here's Spence. As Odobert will play it out to Gallagher, who's immediately got to go back to Danso. And now Spurs will play it back to the right. Here's Gallagher. And Spence has nowhere to go. Same thing with Gallagher as that gets played back to Danso, and now this ball will go all the way back to Vicario as Spurs will have to reset here. That's a good tackle. Here comes Burnley. Tries to play it forward. That's blocked, but now all of a sudden they will now try to play it down the right-hand side. As Spurs have put 10 behind the ball. And here's Esteve. As that ball's going to have to go back to Dubravka. As Pires for a while there, man, Pires was left alone off that left-hand side. There was no switch, but there is going to be a foul here. Solanke. So we're about ready for the restart here, as the ball will be at the foot of Dubravka, and he will play that forward, headed down. Looks like it's going to find Yves Bissouma, as Burnley will chuck this forward, as Kevin Danso will get on it. But here comes Burnley in a good spot. There's a shot. And Vicario. Easy save right there by Vicario, as it looks like that might have been Anthony. Decided to take a rip from distance. Yeah, Spurs will continue to play out of the back as Danso now. And there's a whistle, yeah. Dominic Solanke absolutely pulled down Esteve. Yeah, okay, maybe that wasn't as bad as it looked on the replay, but that'll be Spurs' fourth foul. And that'll give Burnley an opportunity here with the free kick. You would like to see Spurs be far more aggressive. But 45 minutes in the first half without a goal from the run of play, there's a ball that's going to go in, as that ball's going to drop. Here's Florentino, and that's going to take a deflection. So this will be a Burnley throw-in off the right-hand side, as it looked like Romero came across to make the deflection there. As we are in the 57th minute. As this surely will be a long throw in the box, and it is. Headed forward, but down. And now Kevin Danso will clear this one, as Dubravka will come out. As they will play this down the left-hand side. As that ball will go forward. And they do find their man, as Yves Bissouma just pushes him right off the ball. And here comes Bissouma now. Tries to flick it down. That's going to take a deflection and out. Good play right there by Yves Bissouma. Absolutely just bowling. Just bowling. Looks like it was Edwards right off the ball. Actually, I think that might have been Anthony. Regardless. As we are now in the 58th minute here at Turf Moor. As that'll bounce around and find its way out. And I think this will be another Burnley throw in here. As Kyle Walker will be responsible here, as Walker will play this one forward. And that'll get out for another Burnley throw-in. So I'm not going to, accuse Spurs of not playing hard, because I actually think they're playing quite hard. They just can't seem to find that ball. That's a good ball in. And it was the goal scorer right there, Tubaneze, who got on the end of it. That was a great ball in. Tuanzebe. So this will be a goal kick for Spurs. And he's going to have to play this short to Danso. And Danso now will play it forward. Oh, that's taken away. And I thought maybe people were looking for a whistle. There was no whistle, but now Spurs will come forward. Here's Odebear. Lays it in to Jed Spence. Taken away by Burnley. Plays it forward. Oh, that's a good ball right there in the box. Oh, Vicario. Oh, added Boron, that score right there. And they're going to say it was offside. Oh, that was such a very good ball forward as we see this again. It was laid off down the left-hand side, and then Borja makes his run. And I think he got the timing wrong. But as he gets into the box, and I think Vicario got stepped on. As you can see, Romero actually got there to try to block. And Borja went after the scramble, but it looks like Vicario will be all right. But yeah, they called that one offside. That was actually a delicious ball forward right there from Burnley. And now Vicario will play this long. Looks like both teams are really hunting for this go-ahead goal here. As Spurs now will have it on the left-hand side. It's Simmons. He puts one in. Headed away by Esteve. Cleared, but Danso holds it in. Here's Danso. Plays it off to Conor Gallagher. Here's Jed. Can Spurs find this go-ahead goal here? Here's Van de Ven. VDV pushing. Plays it in. And there's Dubravka right there. And it's Florentino. And Burnley looks like they're trying to work it out. And that's a good ball forward. He just misses his mark right there. Spurs will take over. It was a good pass into space with nobody around. As Burnley now will work a takeaway. Oh, and they just give the ball right away. Give it right back. So here comes Spurs now. Here's Jed Spence. As Spence will play it down to Odebear. Back to Spence now as he plays it into Gallagher. Here's Odo. As that was taken away. That ball in was tried to get headed away. But Spurs will keep it deep off the left-hand side with Xavi. And Basuma nearly got it ripped. There's a ball in. And it looks like it was Esteve. And he clears it. And that ball gets tipped out. So it looks like it'll be a Burnley throw. And Spurs had multiple cracks right there. Couldn't do it. Unbelievable. As Dubravka now will shoot this one down. There's Danso. And it looks like it's Romero because he's just going to play one up in the air. And there's going to be a whistle now. As it looks like Yves Basuma will hit the turf right there. Spurs will have the free kick. As we're now in the 65th minute. You're wondering when Thomas Frank, oh, that was just a bad pass right there by Kevin Danso. Now all of a sudden, Burnley has an opportunity here. You're wondering when Thomas Frank is going to make that decision. That was a bad deflection. That actually finds Jed Spence. Now it'll go back to Vicario. And Vicario will play one long. Solanke couldn't hold it. Good pass right there. This would be a good opportunity for Thomas Frank to get some like-for-like attackers on the pitch here. As that was nearly taken away from Jed Spence. Here's Vicario. And he will play one back to Danso. As that ball gets played forward, tipped. And it looks like that will go out. And it'll be a Spurs throw-in. As you were wondering when some of these subs are going to come on, now would seem like an advantageous opportunity to try to potentially bring on a like for like. Well, here we go. It looks like is this VDV? It is. As Xavi will play it back. Here's Danso. As he's going to try to play it in. Nice little give and go right there between Odebear and Spence. There's a ball in. That's a good save right there by Dubravka. Oh, nice move. That ball's taken away. Here's Xavi. And that ball's taken away by Florentino. Oh, nice little tap right here. Here comes Burnley now. 1v3. In the box. Tries to cut in. Good defense right there by Spurs. As Burnley had a good opportunity there. As we're in the 67th minute now. As Spurs try to slow things down. As here's Conor Gallagher. As Basuma now play it to Romero. Here's Danso. Here's Spence. Spence is going to try to take on his man. Beats him, but immediately holds up. And here's Gallagher. Ugh. And Danso now will beat his man. And that ball gets played out. And this will be a Burnley throw-in. Spurs are terrible. Terrible when they slow it down. They get into their little horseshoe, try to work it around, and ultimately can't figure out a way to get into the box. So it looks like Florentino's coming off for Laurent. And it looks like Borja's coming off as well, too, for Foster. So Burnley is the first here in the 68th minute to make a double switch. As Spurs have yet to make a switch here in the second half outside of taking Pedro Porro off. Spurs still dominate the possession 64-36. As that ball's taken away. And it is Wilson Odebear. And then he gets it taken away. Here comes Burnley now. Plays it forward. Taken away. And it'll be Jed Spence now. He's going to try to play one forward. And that ball's going to get cleared away out of bounds for a throw-in. And it was Esteve with the good defense there. So it'll be Danso with the long throw in here on the right-hand side. As we approach the 70th minute, 20 minutes remain. Both teams looking for the go-ahead. As Carlos, that ball gets thrown in. And it's immediately headed out. Here's Danso, who's going to try to chip it in again. Headed down. And there's going to be a foot race around the corner. And it's Edwards who beats him. Here comes Edwards now. Plays it forward. A little too hard. Oh, nice play. That was Jed Spence right there. As that ball gets played forward. And it does find Wilson Odebear here. Cuts in. As it finds Xavi. And that ball in was just not good enough right there. As it comes down, it looks like it finds Kevin Danso, who plays it back. And that ball's taken away. And that ball's going to take a deflection. It'll be out, so Burnley will have to throw in. And I think I agree with you, Carl. I think it is going to take a set piece for some magic here. Spurs' attack has been absolutely dreadful. As here comes Burnley now. Oh. Edwards was taken down. That's a good position right here by Burnley. There's a deflection, but it's going to stay with Burnley here. Ooh. Oh. Did Solanke just get depossessed? Yes, he did. Oh, boy. As they're working it down the left-hand side, as they'll play this one back out, trying to find a central area. And now all of a sudden there's space. There's a ball in. And it's right there is Vicario. That wasn't exactly the greatest of crosses. But here's VDB. As it's Connor Gallagher. As Udoji now will play it back. As Jed Spence now will try to play one forward. Nice little tip back from Solanke. And now there's a ball that's going to get played forward. And Esteve has to play it back to Dubrovnik. That's going to be held in. Looks like it's by Udoji right here. Here's Basuma. And Basuma's going to take a rip, and that's going to sky over the bar. You know Basuma's good for one of those in a match. Good passing right here by Burnley. Is they're going to try to build them. They're going to hold possession here. as over the course of the last 10, 15 minutes-ish, Burnley's actually done a pretty good job of building into an attacking position here. Hasn't necessarily resulted in shots on net, but Spurs have dropped 10 behind the ball here. As that gets played out to the left. Oh, that's a good move right here. There's a beats Van de Ven in the box. Oh, and they score. Oh my God, VDV got fucking torched. And it's Foster who puts Burnley ahead 2-1. In the 75th minute. Are you fucking kidding me? Lyle Foster puts Burnley up ahead. Unbelievable. As we see it again, that was a nice little 1-2 off the left-hand side. And then Foster gets the pitch at the top of the 18, burns VDV, and scores. The question is, was Edwards offside? But VDV got torched. Initially, a good kick save right there by Vicario. But the rebound went right back to Foster, who puts one in, and then Udoji has the ball leak through his feet. And it's 2-1 Burnley. And now it looks like now it looks like Spurs are going to make a change here. So Matisse Tell comes on and Archie Gray comes on. This is about 10 minutes too late. So Danso comes off for Gray. And it looks like Spurs are going to switch the formation now. And Basuma comes off for Tell. "13 minutes remain. Spurs now trail. And now we'll probably assume we're going to see Spurs press forward again. This is usually the typical playbook, as that ball's going to take a deflection out. What's going on, Dan Davenport? Good to see you. Burnley just took the lead, so there's that. Yeah, we've known Frank has had to go. We've known that. We've known. And this isn't going to help things. And again, it was interesting. Oh, there's a ball into the box again. Cuts in. Good defense right there. Spence has to play this one back now to Vicario. Here's VDV. As that gets played out to Udoji off the left. And that ball's taken away. Here comes Burnley. Oh, there's Jet Spence. As Burnley missed the opportunity. Spence is racing forward now. And looks like there's going to be a whistle. And it's a yellow card, the first yellow of the match. And if you're in that position, if you're Burnley, you kind of have to do that. Yeah, no doubt. You kind of have to stop the flow. As Laurent there will take the yellow, so Spurs will have the free kick. You knew it was going to happen, right? So, and I said it at the half. It's like you absolutely have to continue to press forward. Like the things that you did in the first 20, 25 minutes has to be replicated at the start of the second half. Like within the first 10 minutes, you have to go ahead. You have to reclaim the momentum you lost at the end of the first half. And they didn't do it, as this ball will get played forward by Xavi, headed away. And here's Archie Gray. Here's Jed Spence. Good ball in. Tries to tip it forward. And I think there's going to be a whistle. And I think that's probably going to go against Batiste-Tell. Let's see. Could I see Poch coming in as an interim if Frank was sacked, then takeovers? So no. Poch is not going to leave the U.S. men's national team before a World Cup on home soil. It's just not going to happen. He's also not the type of guy that would leave the U.S. Soccer Federation in a lurch. What he can do is if he makes his intent to go back to the Premier League now, you can negotiate a contract now, but you wouldn't be able to deliver until after the World Cup. So as soon as the U.S. that ball gets forward, as Burnley now. As that ball is going to be taken away by Spurs deep. Oh, that was a good play right there. That's going to get out. But he could sign a contract right now with the intent of joining Spurs, but he wouldn't be able to. He wouldn't be able to move until after the World Cup, after the U.S. are done in the World Cup. If you want to do that, they could, but I think that also sends a bad message as well too. But the reality is if Spurs are to lose this one, it would put so much pressure on the board not to make a decision, and it would just be absolutely devastating. That ball's that's an errant pass right here. Here comes Spurs. That ball's going to try to get played forward, but there's Dubravka right there, and he's there. Here's the thing. It's like, yeah, Glasner will be available at the end of the season. Tuchel, Pochettino, Nagelsmann, a whole bunch of coaches will be available. And I think that is, I can see a situation where there is going to be an interim. I know they just brought in Heitinga, but the question is like, will they turn it over to Heitinga, having not even been in the club for 2 weeks? I think that might be a risk as well too. That's why, like I said it this morning on the Irish Hotspur, that me personally, I think Frank stays until the end of February, win or lose, whatever the case may be. And the theory is it gives Heitinga a little bit more time to kind of get ingrained within the club, especially when it comes to players. That ball gets played forward. Here's Spence. But that being said, it's like, and he's essentially covered. That ball's taken away. And now Spence will take it away. There's a ball in. Oh, and Dubravka with a hell of a save. Let's see. Who's replacing Paratici? Johan Lang. Who's already there? Like, yeah, Lang. Yeah, Paratici is out the door because he was like the last piece of Levy business, but Levy appointed Lang. So there it is. Heitinga is the only one with number one experience. Yeah, he was head coach at Ajax, and it's like he does have head coaching experience, but this will be a corner here. Here's Xavi. Xavi will play one in. And that shot is going to, holy shit. As Wilson Odebear, that ball went into orbit. Who's the new mole? Is there a new mole? That's the question I have. Who's the new mole? Maybe Paratici. On his way out the door. That'd be funny. So it looks like Burnley's going to make another switch here. As we are in the 84th minute now. Unbelievable. And it looks like Dane Scarlett's coming in for Connor Gallagher. So he's putting I think he's got 3 strikers on the pitch now. As that ball is played deep, Spurs will have the possession. And that ball will go out. Yeah, I don't think De Zerbi's going to come in to be an interim. That's the other thing. I think if they are going to bring in an interim, it's on a short-term basis until the summer. As that one's taken away, here comes Van de Ven playing it down the left side. That ball was overshot, but back to Van de Ven. That's a nice little move in. It's Yves. Is that Matisse Tell? Yeah. As that finds Archie Gray. As Archie Gray will play it back to Romero. And Romero actually is going to go in deep here. Here's Matisse. Tipped. Matisse is in the box now. Shoots. That's going to take a deflection. And there's going to be a whistle on Xavi Simons. So we are now in the 86th minute. 3.5 minutes to the 90 plus stoppage. As they all look dejected. Holy, look at the facial expressions on Spurs players on the bench. They all look defeated. Unbelievable. As Burnley will play this one long. Tip forward, it does find Romero. Van de Ven now will try to clear it. Esteve will pop this one straight up. As this actually finds a Burnley attacker. As it pops free, and it'll be Spurs with possession. Unbelievable. There was no whistle right there. But it's Odebear now. Odebear. And that ball's taken away. And that's too heavy of a touch right there. So now Spurs will come away with possession. Can they find the equalizer? As it's Jed Spence. Plays it low. And it's Matisse Tell who gets deep possessed. But coming away with it is Jed Spence, who's going to play one in. Headed out. Here's Mickey Van de Ven. Looks like it's Destiny Udoji. They got to play it back to Van de Ven. As Van de Ven will play it for Archie Gray. 88th minute. As Spurs are hunting for the equalizer here. Trying to salvage a point. As looks like Archie Gray is now playing a center back. And it looks like they've actually put Christian Romero forward as a target. Wow. Here's Wilson Odebear, and he beats his man. Odebear now to the touchline. Plays it forward. Shoots! Oh, I think it hit the crossbar. Oh, and now there's going to be a clearance. That'll get out. Oh, he was that close. As they're going to try to play this one in. It's Matisse Tell. And Tell now will dribble as that ball makes its way to the left. As a ball into the Jed Spence. Now there's a ball to the right. There's a ball in. Shoots and he scores! And it's Christian Romero with the equalizer. Christian Romero finds the equalizer for Spurs. And Spurs have actually found one from the road of play. And they will potentially salvage a point here. Oh yeah, for sure. And it was 100%. It was Wilson Odebear that was left alone off the right-hand side. And Burnley couldn't close the distance, and then they just picks out Christian Romero. And that was an absolute screamer. As he beats Dubrovnik. As there will be 5 minutes of added time here. And play has resumed. Wow. Yeah, our center backs. As Burnley will hold possession here. Taken away. Here comes Spurs again on the front foot. Here's Matisse. Lays it off. Xavi tries to play it forward, head it out. And I think that was Esteve. Oof. I'll tell you where we'd be without our center backs. We'd be absolutely cooked. Do I follow the Winter Olympics? Kind of. And what would we do without him? Well, we would be cooked. That's what we'd be. 100%. As Mickey Van de Ven and Christian Romero supplies the goals. Unbelievable. As that ball gets played back. And here comes Burnley. And I think there's going to be a whistle. I think this is going to go back to Spurs. Unbelievable. As we will find out what the call is. Yeah, I think this is going to go to Spurs. Yeah, it is. As play is resumed. As they'll have to restart this one again. As we're in the 93rd minute, Spurs dodge a bullet. Getting a late equalizer here. Still about 2 minutes left for play. And they nearly dropped 3 on the road at Turf Moor. Still. As that ball will find Xavi now. The Spurs are looking for the winner here. As they play this back to Xavi, who's going to play it back to Archie Gray. Jed Spence is going to try to play one forward, and there's nobody there except for Dubrovnik. And he will play this one long. That'll come down to Burnley as he tries to play one forward. It's going to get tipped back to Vicario as we have about a minute to play. As Spurs will hold possession. And there's a ball that's going to go in. And I think there's going to be a whistle, against Dane Scarlett. So we have about 30 seconds remaining here. Burnley will have possession as Dubrovnik now will take the free kick. Both Scott Parker and Thomas Frank are looking for the winner. And it looks like Radu Dragashin will come in for Christian Romero. We have a Radu sighting. Yay, it's Radu. As Romero will come off. Hopefully this does not lead to a winner. Dubrovnik will play this long. As that comes down. It's like that'll be a whistle, so Burnley will hold possession here. As we we're approaching the 96th minute, so this probably is going to be it here. There's a ball in, headed down. There's a shot blocked. And I think that's going to do it. Spurs avoid embarrassment. They get a late equalizer, but this still was an ugly game. Ugly game as Spurs do salvage a point today. And that will put them level on points with Crystal Palace. So they're in that 13th, 14th position. As unreal. All right. So Spurs avoid embarrassment, thank God. Because it was looking pretty ugly there after Burnley took the lead. But that being said, there never should have been a position where Burnley takes the lead. And again, Thomas Frank nearly found a way to lose this one. And if it wasn't for the center back pairing of Mickey Van de Ven and Christian Romero, that's exactly how it would have played. But Spurs do grab a point. All right, let's go ahead and get into the stats for this one. Full-time whistle. Spurs did win the possession battle 63-37. They did win the XG battle 2.29 to 1.46. Total shots, Spurs 18, Burnley 9. Shots on target 11 for Spurs. Big chances, Burnley 4, Spurs 3. And Burnley missed 3 big chances to Spurs 2. Accurate passes, Spurs 521, Burnley 284. Fouls committed, Spurs 9, Burnley 8. And Spurs won the corner battle 3-1. XG from open play, Spurs 1.78 to Burnley's 0.80. XG on set play, Burnley 0.65 to Spurs 0.52. When we're looking inside the shots, hit the woodwork, Spurs 1, Burnley 0. Of course, that was the Xavi shot that hit the crossbar. Shots inside the box, 11-6 Spurs. Shots outside the box, 7-3. Passes, total passes, 618 for Spurs to 372. Passes in the own half, 268 to 132 Spurs, and passes in the opposition half, 253 to 152, so 100 more. Accurate long balls, Spurs 23, Burnley 14. Accurate crosses, 7-2 Spurs. Throws were even at 18. Touches in the opposition box, 27 to 15, and Burnley was offsides 3-1. Discipline, Burnley had 1 yellow card to Spurs 0. Tackles, Spurs won the tackle battle 24-21. They also won the interception battle 15. Burnley won the interception battle 15-9. Clearances, Burnley 20, Spurs 14. Keeper saves 9-2. In the duels, it was all Spurs 56-44. Ground duels 42-36. Aerial duels 14-8 Spurs, and 6 at-full dribbles 11-6. So when we look at these numbers, it shows a level of dominance. But one of the things that Spurs still did today was inexplicably leak a couple goals that they had no business leaking. And so from that standpoint, this should have been a full 3 points. It absolutely should have been a full 3 points. And this has been the problem with Spurs over the course of the last couple of months. They just continue to find a way to drop points essentially from a winning position. Today, they had a 1-0 lead, and it was looking like they were potentially taking some momentum into halftime and potentially would have found potentially 2 and 3. But instead, they give away the equalizer right before the half. They give away the go-ahead goal, and they essentially have to put numbers forward to try to find an equalizer, to the point where they're putting Christian Romero up in a essentially a center forward position just to get an extra big body up there, just so they can throw Hail Mary crosses into the box. But that being said, it actually worked out because Wilson Odobert was left alone off that right hand side in order to get it. So from that standpoint, it is a point. But God damn it, this is, you had a feeling that this was going to happen, and from that standpoint, it's absolutely, for me, it just pisses me off because this was a gettable 3 points. So yeah, it's just frustrating. But that being said, they're able to walk out of Turf Moor with 1 instead of none. But it was damn near close where we were about to drop it. So I guess fantastic. They showed a little heart there at the end of the game. But damn it, it's like every opportunity, and now all of a sudden we have Eintracht Frankfurt coming up, and then we get into a period of games where it's City, United, Newcastle, and Arsenal, and it's you would have liked to see them put together at least a few wins getting into it. Instead of having a win today, it's it's a draw. So we'll see exactly how this plays out. Maybe we get a win against Frankfurt, and we'll go into that with a little bit of momentum, but it is what it is. And so that's something, at least. But, one of the things that is that's funny. One of the things that is still a very big bugaboo is the fact that, this team from the run of play just literally cannot find any type of rhythm when it's in their attacking third. There's no inside runs. There are barely any overlaps to try to get around the corner to play balls in. And when they do find the overlap, it's usually easily defended. And from that standpoint, man, again, we essentially saw a good 85 minutes in the run of play where Spurs literally could do nothing. And I would probably assume that the goal that they did score, was, an act of desperation. Burnley just fell asleep, but I guess you got to take it where it is. Carl Slim Blue says RKM, no RKM today. Scarlett came on before him. Surely he's cooked if Scarlett is coming on. Yeah, that's actually quite interesting, because really the way that I look at it is they're not going to cancel his loan deal. That's not going to happen. They're going to need as many bodies as they can. But that being said, it's like, RKM just has not been in rhythm at all. So it's unfortunate. It really is. But it's nice to see Scarlett get on in the Premier League. I think a lot of Spurs fans have been wanting Dane Scarlett. So there you go. Coming up for Spurs, obviously, it is a Champions League fixture versus Eintracht Frankfurt. That's coming up on Wednesday, the 28th. But then all of a sudden, it's a run of 4 games where Spurs, before I guess you can say the schedule eases off a little bit against Fulham and Crystal Palace, they have Man City at home. They travel to Manchester United, Old Trafford. Then they get Newcastle at home, and then they get Arsenal at home, which I will actually be there for. Again, this was a match where the pitchforks come out again. There's no reason why we should be struggling to play to a draw against Burnley. But that being said, the question is whether the board is actually going to determine whether or not this was enough. to sack Thomas Frank. Me personally, Thomas Frank should have been sacked after West Ham. We shouldn't have gotten to this point. But me personally, I think the board is scared. I think the board have no idea what the right move is. That Vinny Venkatesham and Johan Lang are going to push to keep him. But that being said, it's like by sacking him, you have to admit you got it wrong. And if that's the case, then those two's livelihoods come into play. And I would think that they're looking out for their own interests instead of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, because that's the thing. Big clubs don't have a problem admitting they got it wrong. As a matter of fact, they'll sack a coach, and if there is an interim out there, they'll bring them in, and then they'll try again. And this is why it's hard for Spurs fans to look at this and say that we're a big club, because we don't act like it. And for me, that is the most frustrating part. So hopefully, we will make a decision. Me personally, I think it's probably going to be after the Arsenal match, I would probably assume. And at that point, depending on how this goes in the Champions League, determines whether or not we'll make. It seems like we're going to get through in the top 8. But that being said, after that run in February, I just have a feeling that it's going to be so untenable that there's not going to be any choice but to fire him. But I would probably assume with this result today, he will be around for Eintracht Frankfurt. But I digress. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. The 2,469 of you that are watching via X, and also those that are tuning in on TikTok Live. The description obviously is in my X account, so you can head on over to YouTube and hit the like and subscribe buttons, and also same for you guys over on TikTok. The description is in there, so very much appreciated if you can show some love, or if you just rather follow me here on TikTok, that's also fine as well too. Show some love for the guy that shows up every weekend to watch the debacle that is Tottenham Hotspur. I'm going to take off, guys. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good day, man.